Hey everyone, in this video I want to share with you the 10 things I learned from the Bulletproof diet. Obviously I learned more than 10 things, but I want to share with you 10 of the big things. And this book is very, I would say, controversial because there's a lot of things that we have been led up to believe that is, you know, the book is saying is completely not true. It's actually saying stuff like that you should eat more fats and all sorts of crazy stuff. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But just wanted to do a quick 10-second mini review of the book. I liked it, but I tend to stay away from stuff that has a lot of controversy in terms of scientific results because that's pretty much means it's not definitive yet. And so you can't, I just stick to the stuff that's been fully proven and 100% of people agree on right now. And this is not one of those books, but I think it's very interesting, and I think some of it has a lot of good science to it. So I just wanted to bring it up, and I think some of these points are huge. So the first thing I learned is if you're not losing weight, you're not trying hard enough is a failed myth. And this one is something that's it's more important to me because I see a ton of people, a lot of girls, even to this day, who their whole stunted view of health and how good they look is, I got to lose more weight. How many pounds did I lose today? And I think it's just so single-minded. It's so one-dimensional. And usually they haven't read a single book on it. Maybe they've read a few articles on BuzzFeed. I don't know, but it doesn't seem like they've done a lot of deep research on it. And some of these women will literally keep burning fat any way they can until they're unhealthy. And there's so much more complexity to the human body than just losing weight. And yet some of these girls, even though they're really skinny, they're just counting how many pounds did I lose today? How can I lose more pounds? And that's their entire focus. And I think it doesn't make much sense, but it really makes me wonder, what other fallacies do we cover? So that's the first thing. And there's a lot more info in this book. The point is that, again, if you eat all this stuff and you lose it all, it's not exactly healthy for you. The second myth, hunger. So some people believe that hunger is not a problem and that, hunger is just sometimes you being thirsty. And that's true, and I think you should drink enough water until you're not thirsty anymore. But if you're still hungry from there, I think what this book says is fairly true. It says that any type of hunger is really not good for you. You're literally starving your body and your hormones are out of balance and a lot of things are firing in the brain, in your body, which are screaming at you to eat. And this is a good thing. It's a healthy thing. And this is something that you should listen to. Now, obviously, I think this book doesn't cover really exceptions, but I guess if you're a binge eater, that maybe not. But I would say starving yourself is not the best way. And I think this is a lot of these habits and things that they mention in this book that are very controversial or shocking or different, they're good because they're pretty much telling you, hey, you can eat. Hey, you can eat more fats. It's okay. So it's interesting. Third thing, a low-fat diet is healthy. So this one is like it's a bit of an attack on this whole fat-free thing, and a bit of an attack on the whole marketing campaign behind it and how fat-free is not really fat-free. It's interesting, and I'm going to look more into it. The point is, though, fat-free is not always the best thing, nor is low-fat diet, which is interesting. Next thing, eating fat will make you fat. So this is probably one of the biggest ones, and the reason I picked up this book, this is what I heard, and that was one of the big ones. It's like, wait, what? And the creator of this, he actually has all these products like fat water, and apparently it's like water infused with fats. Now, how does that work? How do you lose weight and become healthier by consuming more fats? So his whole point is that this whole idea that if you consume this much fat, you will gain this much weight is completely false. And he apparently did this 2 year plus test on it himself. And he would eat a set amount of fats. And by doing that, supposedly he would have gained dozens of pounds, but instead he lost weight, he developed a six-pack ab and a bunch of stuff. And the reason behind it, which is what he's saying, is that there's good fats and bad fats. And because of the bad fats, fats in general get a bad rep. And if you eat more of the good fats, you will actually lose weight. So again, generally speaking, I stick away from the super controversial stuff because I'm not really sure if this is definitive yet. So right now I'm just putting it as a interesting but not conclusive. I do agree with the good fat stuff, but I would be interested to see what other people have to say about that. Next thing, number 5. Cutting calories is the best way to lose weight. So this is a huge one because guess what? Everyone talks about is they count the amount of calories they ate that day and they write it out. This is incredibly interesting. Again, it's starting to get very deep and controversial here. So again, the point of that is just to pique your interest. Number 6, everything natural is good for you. So what they're saying here is that, okay, a lot of stuff like fruit, even though it's natural, it may not be good for you. There's tons of sugar in it and there's tons of extra stuff, excessive fructose and a bunch of other stuff. Number 7, you have to work out a lot to lose weight. This is one of his big emphases in this book, other than the fat thing. And again, I would say it's slightly biased in the fact that this guy used to weigh 300 pounds. And his whole story is that he would get a trainer and he would work out 7 days a week. And he would be pumping the weights and doing all sorts of stuff, and it wasn't working. And he would spend hours there and be burnt out and drained of willpower. And he's saying that you want to spend more time just eating the right way, and he advises stuff like intermittent fasting. For me personally, I don't like the extreme stuff. I've never really been excessively overweight. There were times where I got a little bit overweight. So for me, I don't know if the same thing applies. But it's interesting. It's interesting to say the least. And of course, if you want to see all the data and the science, you can read this whole book yourself. It's not that thick, honestly. Another thing, the 8th thing, is that what he says is that you should spend time on the right type of exercises. He's saying that if you spend hours every day on the wrong types of exercises, it's not going to do you any good because he says that you can hit a point of burning out your system. He says a certain level of moderate exercise is good, but when you go overboard, you literally burn out your heart. And if you don't let it to rest and recuperate, it will cause a lot of problems. The big idea here is that, this is why a lot of marathon runners get heart attacks and stuff because they're overworking their system. And he says, overdoing it is not enough. Again, I think this book is specifically geared, and the advice is geared more towards people who are workaholics rather than people who are super lazy and have never, spent a minute at the gym. So it's kind of telling these people, hey, you don't have to work out that much. And I think it's true because I've met people who are really overweight and they spend hours at the gym every day and it's just not working. And I find it very interesting to see that maybe it's just the fact that their knowledge about how to solve this is not complete. So I think that's very interesting. Number 9, coffee is bad for you. So this guy sells a very well-known type of coffee called BulletProof coffee that has added butter and certain fats in it. And it's this whole idea about how specific types of coffee are actually good for you. And coffee gets a bad rep because of the sugary types of drinks that Starbucks brings. So he's recommending specific types of good coffee. And as far as that goes, I think it's really towards people who want to lose weight. Again, who knows if there's a bias because he sells this coffee himself. And then the final thing, number 10, is that salt is not a hazardous substance. Salt is actually apparently good for you. Again, I think I would say take this one, no pun intended, with a grain of salt. Because he says, yes, high quality sea salt is great for you. It provides minerals for your body. And I do think that definitely salt is healthy when taken in moderation. And you get the right type of salt, which is apparently sea salt here, rather than table salt. And on top of that, the thing is, salt really makes a meal taste better. If you've seen any type of cooking show, any type of chef show, they pretty much state that if you don't add salt, the best foods in the world will not taste like anything. So I think certain levels of salt are useful, but again, if you've read books like 50 Secrets of the Longest Living People here, I have it right here. This book, which I carry around with me a lot, guess what? It states as one of its big points is that you should eat salt in very limited quantities in moderation. Excessive salt is really bad for you, and it points to numerous long-living tribes all across the world, and also it goes into great detail as well on the science behind it. So arguably, I don't think these two books are fighting against each other on the salt thing. I think honestly, in certain ways, if you really understand what it's saying, it's on the same lines. It's saying that, okay, don't eat too much salt, but eat the right type of salt. And this one, obviously, it's more focused on the right type of salt and, eat some salt. Whereas this one is saying, don't eat much salt at all. So again, this stuff is not exactly where I prefer to stay my time. So I think any other books in the future on nutrition for me will be more on things that are more commonly accepted. Not because I don't look at these with an open mind. It's just the fact that some of the stuff is still not fully proven. And when there's a ton of controversy and contradictory scientific studies, I don't want to experiment with that on my body because I only have one. So this book I hold to a little bit higher degree because of the fact that, I mean, there's decades of studies on people who have lived for 100 plus years for a long time, and they've studied these tribes for centuries. Having said that, though, there's certain things in this book that I definitely think are worth looking at, because I guess I'm pretty sure certain elements of it, there's really no real pushback from communities at all. For instance, the whole thing about not burning out your system with exercise. I think that is true, and what it's advising you avoid is super marathons or anything excessive, which I think is true. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Of course, all the links to the books, any articles might have written on greater detail will be in the description below this video. Hit the subscribe button to stay subscribed to my channel for future book updates. And of course, I'll see you in the next video every Thursday at noon. Peace.